Okay, we're live.
This is July 15th, 2015. We are in the Taunton Heritage Center, the Old Methodist Church, and we have with us a prominent old-time Tualatin family, the Bushbaum family, and with their older relatives. And we're going to start with the eldest boy in the Bushbaum family. And would you give your name, please?
You ready?
Ready? Just your name.
Well, I made some notes, so I
Just your name. Just your name right now.
Oh, Joe Bushbaum.
All right.
Dolores Fulmer Bushbaum.
Repeat back in.
Dolores Bushbaum. That.
Kelly J. Ewing.
Vivian Rice.
Lois Martinezzi.
Martha Bushbaum McNamee.
Melvin McNamee, Jr.
Brandon Lake. Lori McDonald Blumenstein.
Linda Brycey Ewing.
Larry Lee.
Thank you. Now, Joe, go ahead and tell us what you have there.
Well, first thing I'll talk about is my dad did a good job. First job I remember him talking about is he worked on the Wilsonville Ferry, Boone's Ferry. And he used to, before my folks were married, and he would walk from the home place down there on Borland Road. It was called, had a number then, I don't know, I remember what it is, 220 or 212 or something like that. Anyway, he'd walk there to back and forth. It's about a 6-mile walk. And I remember him telling the story once when he was working there. The guy come with a Model T Ford, pulling a trailer behind with a cow in it. And the cow and brakes give out and it went into the river. And so he had, of course, shut the ferry down then because it was right in the way of it. So then they dragged the river, and my dad would help drag the river to find his body. They found his body. I don't know for sure. I don't remember if he said the boat he was in was the one that found her died. I'm not sure. Okay. Next job, I remember him, Schummer, worked for Schummer Brothers during the 1930s when cutting cordwood. Back then they didn't have oil stoves or electric. They had wood furnaces and wood stoves for cooking. And I don't know how long some of these jobs they worked at. I couldn't tell you that. Another job, after that, he worked for the WPA. And one of the jobs was right here in Tualatin. And that was on 60 Meridian Road then. From going up the hill, they cut that out, you know, that field, and that was all handwork. They didn't have mechanized equipment then. There was horses and scoop they pulled behind the horses, and he would, of course, live close enough. He walked to work then. And the next job, he got a job down to Orange Point Cement Company, and he worked there until he retired. He worked there, I think, 17 years. And so, next thing, I'll talk about the property. He purchased that sometime in the early 20s. Marty, you know what year it was or anything?
No, I don't.
It was in the 1920s, anyway, before they were
Was it
married.
after the Riceys?
Huh?
Was it after the Riceys purchased there?
We don't.
For
That's the
Riceys.
Was Riceys purchased theirs first, and then your dad purchased theirs next?
Is that right? They had their property first, huh?
I think so.
And the property was where? Where was the property?
Pardon me?
Where was the property?
Right across from Sun.
song place?
On what road?
Foreman Road.
Thank you. You see, some people that are gonna watch this won't know where.
On Foreman Road, the one called Foreman Road, that had a number.
Oh, 212, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the number was, 212. Anyway,
Mother said, just a minute, Joe, that there was a man that lived on that property and he burned up in house fire. And it went to the state, they couldn't find any family. Huh?
go ahead, I was gonna tell that.
And, so my dad bid on it and bought it for $2,600.
$2,600, 17 acres.
17 acres.
There was no building on the
Yeah.
place.
How much money was it again?
$2,600,
Wow.
17
It
acres.
was
And that
forced.
was what
Well,
year?
it was forced, wasn't it?
That was the money he got when he left the army. They call it mustering out pay then.
What?
Mustering out pay.
That was
From
his
the army.
yeah.
Oh.
Uncle Joe Malsum bid on it too, but he didn't have quite enough money, so Daddy got it.
I didn't know
Now,
that.
Joe, where did your ancestors come from? Where was your dad born?
He was born in
Walker
Stafford.
On the border road.
Yeah.
Your dad was born on what we used to call the old, academic place.
I understand he lived 1 year on Sawyer's Island, and then they moved out, to the 12th area.
Tootie would have information about Ray's father, his ancestry. That's her information.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what about your mother? Where was she born?
North Dakota.
North Dakota.
He was born in South Dakota.
North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Esmond, North Dakota.
North Dakota. Yeah, 1901 she was born. My dad was born 1892 on Lincoln's birthday. They always said that there was two great men in the world. They said Abraham Lincoln and me.
Also, that was the day that they declared birthday a national holiday. He didn't know that, I found that trivia on.
And he was always the same age as Jack Benny.
Yeah, he really got it.
Oh, yeah, very nice.
Well, Joe, was there a house on the property when your dad bought it?
There had been a house on it, but on the other, back of the place, and like Doris said, the felon burned up in the fire, and so probably didn't have no heirs, So the county sold it, probably maybe even for taxes, And my dad got it for $2,600, 17 acres.
And what year was that?
It was in the early 20s.
Oh, okay.
That's all I know. I couldn't tell you. My folks were married, I think, in 1925.
Something like that.
Yeah, May.
No, oh yeah, May 24th.
So when did the Bushbaums come to Oregon, and where did they come from?
Iowa.
Ohio.
Our grandfather was born, Grandpa Bushbaum was born in Ironton, Ohio. And I guess he didn't get along back there. He left home when he was 19 years old. And he come out, first he went to California. And then he migrated, maybe he would come out during the gold rush, I don't know.
He was in California.
He was born right around
1892.
when Lincoln, 1866, I think he was born after Lincoln. And then he migrated up here for some,
She's got the, when he was in California.
what?
She's got the time when he was in California.
Oh, it's a new year?
Yeah. I got it. He had, I caught the edit this morning, and she has a paper, a receipt in 1892 for dry goods, and he was in California. And he came up to Oregon and did a few jobs, and then he went, I think, back down to California, and then he came back up and stayed.
Do you know roughly how old he was when he came up to stay in Oregon?
He left Ironton,
Was he around 21?
yeah, something
No, what is the nationality of Bushbaum name?
German.
German, okay. Now, tell us a little bit about the Malsons.
Oh,
Your mother was a Malson, right?
yes. South Dakota.
Dakota.
North originally, they came from,
German.
They migrated.
German, Russian.
from Germany, yeah. Well, they
But
keep
I
it
heard
about
that our grandfather and grandmother didn't know each other till they come to the States and met on Ellis Island.
yeah.
That's what I've heard
They said they met on the ship.
on the ship.
Yeah. Grandpa, they migrated from Odessa, Russia. Even though they're German, they left Germany because of religious problems, I guess.
Catherine the Great wanted a lot of Germans to come to Russia.
Yeah, because they were good farmers.
Yes, yes.
Odessa is on the Black Sea.
They
Yes.
immigrated into Russia to teach the peasants how to farm, and the peasants didn't want to learn how to farm. They just wanted to work on the farms. So after so many hundreds of years, they got kicked out of Russia.
Oh.
That's why they immigrated to the United States.
Oh.
So where did Ray Bushbaum meet
They
Margaret?
lived next door to each other, and from what I understand, she would be upstairs in her house, older house, and she watched him while he was doing farming.
They lived in the back of us.
In the backside, yeah.
26 acres.
But
Yeah, 26 acres. Yeah, she watched him while he did the farming. And from talking to one of our mother's sisters, that he proposed to one of her sisters first, but she turned him down because she told him he was too old for her. Already.
Oh, that's Gertie Pastor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I met her, talked to her
Yeah.
a long time ago.
Yeah,
She knew my great aunt.
Okay.
Jurgens.
Okay.
Caroline Jurgens.
Yeah.
She says, I knew the one that had the cancer in her nose. Yeah.
yeah,
I
okay,
remember her.
yeah,
Oh, my daughter says, yeah.
yeah, said he was too old.
Okay, well, go ahead, Joe. What?
He was also a World War I veteran.
Mhm.
But he didn't, I think he was in about 6 months, but he didn't get shipped over. The war ended before he got shipped overseas. Yeah.
Well, mother said they tried to cure him with his flat feet. I don't know if he had flat feet or not. That's one of the stories I heard. I don't know if it's true or not.
I'm real interested in the Malson house. And I know that there's a very interesting story that has to do with a building here in Tualatin. Who would like to talk to that about that? Do you know about it?
What?
The Malson house, where did the bricks come from, for the Malson house?
Oh, the bricks came from the corner, they built the corner store down here. What was the name?
Robinson.
Robinson, yeah. My two grandpas worked on that, built laying brick. And my grandfather, Malson, took his payout in bricks. And my grandpa Bushbaum took it in money.
And I've heard that story. I think your father told me that story.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That's how they got enough money left to build that big house.
Yeah, and then, let's see, where was he? Joe says he does have a picture of the Molson house, so I would like to write a story about the Bushbaum family. Now, I want to go into, some of you folks that are, I don't quite understand how you're all related.
We're related through Ray's dad, Joe Bushbaum. When you say Grandpa Bushbaum, to some of us, we hear Joe Bushbaum, and others hear Ray Bushbaum. Basically what happened was Joe Bushbaum had, three daughters and a son, and his son was Ray. And my great-grandmother was one of his daughters. And Tootie Francis right there, her grandmother was another of his daughters, and Etta. So me and Mom are related to one of his daughters, those two are related to another, and these here are related to his son.
Well, thank you for,
Married into the family.
you were married into the family. Now, I remember Mrs. Twice, yes, twice. Yeah. I remember Mrs. Ricey, what was her first name?
Hazel.
Hazel, yes. And she was Molson, wasn't she?
No, she
She was a good one.
This is
Bushbaum.
Hazel right here.
Oh,
Her mother was a
That's
shaver.
Frankie.
Yeah.
Hazel's mother, Joe Bushbaum, married a shaver.
okay, and they were all pioneers.
I know her great-grandmother was, Hazel and Ray's great-grandmother was an original descendant, came before Oregon was a state.
Yes.
Shaver, came over the Oregon Trail with her son, age 50.
That's wonderful. Anyway, I used to deliver mail, and, you remember that? And I delivered to your dad on Moreland Road, and then you up on 82nd. And the story I heard was that Mrs. Bushbaum and Mrs. Ricey didn't care for each other. And so if they went out to the mailbox to get the mail together, they wouldn't speak.
The shared mailbox, they had a bigger one than.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For years, we don't know what the story was, because she would, our mother would not explain it. And we could not go and talk to our aunt, because there would have been argument. And we had
How many kids were in the Bushbaum family?
There were 7 of them.
7.
Could we actually hold up that picture that was just held up and repeat who that was again?
Can you tell us who this is, Martha?
I'd have to look at the picture. Yeah, that's my grandpa, my dad. No, that's my grandpa. That's my dad. That's Hazel, and that's Frankie, and that's,
May.
May, that's May.
So this is a Bushbaum family.
That's the Bushbaum family.
And so that was from left to right.
The little ones.
I'm not sure if it was left to right.
Below this one.
The algebra down there.
Great picture, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my dad.
So Tootie, I call her Tootie, but Frances, you were named after Frances? Yeah,
They
grandma.
named me after my grandma.
Yeah, anyway, she did an extensive amount of study in Joe Bushbaum,
See,
in his history.
there's my
Got a
dad.
bunch of information.
Oh, wow.
So she did, it's very impressive. She's got their marriage license, divorce, that, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Fran, what can you tell us about your part of the family? Now, you were a Denley, right?
I still am. Could have said, did you want me to give all my names, last names that I have?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
That's what's come and go, we know that.
I am, let's see, it would be Bushbaum to Payne to Denley. That's how.
Your mother was a pain.
My mother was a Payne, P-A-Y.
Okay, thank you. She was a very sweet lady, yes. Yes. That's great to know.
It goes, my lineage goes through Frankie, Francis, Olive. Payne, Olive too. Just Francis.
Well, now, weren't the Paynes in Tualatin real early, right down here in downtown?
Not right here, right over there.
On
Right
Williams
over the railroad track.
Is that right?
That's, yeah, Payne, yeah. Grandpa built the story, when Grandpa built that square house.
Oh, really? I didn't realize
My
that.
dad was, Marion King was born in that house.
Young public grade.
Wow.
Was Ray born there too?
I don't remember that. It could have been, it could. But I know Marion was born in Tolleson, right in the town. And the house that Bob built was the only house that had an upstairs with no windows.
No, when did we?
Now, was that the first square house right by the railroad tracks?
The second, I think.
The second, no? I wonder why there were no windows.
I don't know. It probably cost money.
Yeah.
From what I understand, Bob Payne, the addition that was put on our house, the bedrooms and the bathroom,
Yeah.
he helped build that, the addition.
I know that from the old Tualatin records, I know that there was a Payne on the city council. when
That
it
was
started
him.
That's about.
In 1913,
Yeah,
yes.
that was him.
Well, that's wonderful to know, that's really good information. We didn't
Also,
know any of
when
that.
our uncle was building the addition to our parents' house, Doris and I, being young, we just had all the flooring, and we would be up there on the flooring, and he would chase us off because he was afraid we'd fall off. We were having fun.
Oh, I want to introduce also Larry Lee over here. And Larry is my ex-husband, and he grew up real close to the Bushbaum family, and I lived on the Lee
I
farm.
remember when they moved there.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, wow.
When your folks moved on that property there, well, I remember that. When you
Where
built
did
that
they-
first, when you built the first house, was it a log house or something?
No, I don't think they.
Well, your folks built that house there. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. What year did they move on that property?
1936.
Yeah, it's got 6 years old.
Well, Larry, tell us a little bit about the house.
Well, I think it was a woodcutter's house, had 2 rooms and it opened upstairs and was fairly conservative. Other than that, I don't think they had much.
I would agree with you that it was fairly conservative.
You tell about that.
Well, was you born on the place?
No, I was not. I was born in Roseburg. Moved there when I was 5 or 6.
I remember you and when we went to the old school down in Tualatin here, you know, you guys were late coming into school, and you were hunting for nails in the shingles. You were told the teacher that's why you were late.
Well, I think Joe has a little memory about the Lee, about Mr. Roger Lee. Can you tell us about that, Joe?
Well, I can tell, I guess, your dad.
All played.
At one time, you know, I think you do, like, most of the neighbors around here didn't care for your dad. Well, I didn't think any dogs or anything come on the place, you know, and shoot her.
You shot the dog, yeah.
Yeah, you know that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, us kids, we were still raising, I think, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. Thought we'd get even with your dad. So one year, October, when the watermelons were on, we cleaned them.
I remember that.
You remember that? Cleaned it out. Watermelon.
I could have gotten into a lot of trouble that night, Joe.
Huh?
When you guys brought the watermelon patch, I went over to Grandma Malson's to get Gordon to help.
Yeah, Gordon helped.
Yeah, they told me to go get him. So I did it. And then the next day, you guys, well, I don't know who, I don't think you were involved, were packing all those melons in gunny sacks past our house.
Well, the Reed boys.
The Reed boys, yeah.
Two Reed boys.
John
you know
Rowland.
the boys.
Yeah.
Remember the Reed?
Well, I don't remember them, but I think you do. Remember the big
Yeah,
boys?
Larry,
Yes, I do.
Reed boys were in on it. I and Gordon and Martha, were you in on it too?
No, I just went and got Gordon. And that would have been enough.
I think there was somebody else in on it too, but I can't remember.
And then when they robbed the watermelons at Theobald's place, remember? Gordon and I don't know who else was. But
don't
Gordon
remember
got
that.
into trouble.
Huh?
Gordon got into trouble for going over to get those watermelons.
Oh, yeah.
And
You know, Theobald, he didn't have no
He
legs, you
didn't
know.
have no legs. And so Uncle Tony made him go apologize, and when he got over there to apologize, Theobald pulled him down on his wooden legs.
Now, I've heard Larry talk about Theobald, and didn't know anything about it. Now I know who Theobald was.
He was our neighbor,
He was
yeah.
your neighbor, and
Next to
But
Ricey's.
he was married to Zelda and.
You know how he lost his leg twice?
go ahead, tell us.
He worked for Eagle, August and Joe Eagle, and had a corn patch, old field corn, you know, and that it's cut it into a silo, you know. Well, he was feeding it, and it wasn't going down fast enough, so he got in there, was pushing it down with his legs.
Oh.
Yeah, cut a foot off first, and I don't know where he cut the other one, but he kept getting gangrene, And they had to keep cutting away and cutting away. Yeah. You better have,
But he wouldn't let him go any further than his knees.
yeah.
Now, what year would that have been?
Huh?
What year would that have been?
Oh, my.
Remember?
Oh,
Twenties?
when would it be, you say?
Yeah.
Probably.
Back in the thirties, 19,
Okay, well,
Early thirties then, Joe.
yeah, early thirties, you're right, yeah.
what Fred Doppel told me, of course, he knew everything too, he said as soon as the third ball got his legs cut off, one of the Edel, Joe Edel got in his hydroplane or some kind of a car, new car, and sped down to Salem to pay his insurance.
And then for transportation, he bought an Alice Chalmers tractor.
That was donation to him.
Huh?
That was a donation. They
Was it-
raised money for
Was
him.
it a donation?
Yeah, because he didn't have any transportation.
Anyway, Alice Chalmers, they advertised it, with him, he had a girlfriend that lived down there in Prosperity Park. He'd take that, get on that tractor and go down and see his girlfriend. He traveled all over with that tractor.
Well,
That was his transportation.
And didn't you say, Larry, that he did work with it, that he did custom farm work with it?
I don't know if they did custom farm work with it, but I remember one fall they loaded a bunch of potatoes in sacks and he took them to Portland with that tractor. And it was a small, by today's standards, it'd be a very small tractor.
it was a little Fortson, wasn't it? They call it a Fortson tractor?
Alice Chalmers.
Oh, okay.
So, changing the subject a little bit, what did you kids do when you were kids? I mean,
Nowadays.
Okay, Vivian's gonna tell us.
Grandpa Bushbaum was staying at the Rice's, and Martha and Florence got to go to a show
Every Saturday.
every Saturday. And every Monday morning, they would come over and sit on the front porch with Grandpa Bushbaum, and they would tell from the time they walked into that door till they got back out of that theater, told Grandpa every bit of the story. The two of them were talking at the same time.
Anyway, I got another story to tell about my dad. After I got old enough to have, got my driver's license and bought my own car, I was the one that had to go get the groceries. My mother make a list out, and my dad, God, he says, I'd like to have a little beer too, he'd write a note to get in the clerk so I can get some beer. You remember that, Martha?
And you could do the same thing with cigarettes.
Huh?
Cigarettes too.
Yeah,
Cigarette
cigarette.
tobacco.
You mean your
Yeah.
mother, she didn't want her to have
And
those?
they,
Pardon?
Your mother didn't want her to have those? Oh.
Oh, I don't know.
and they sold it to
It was
me.
the money.
I was only about 17,
And they sold.
Yeah, oh yeah, they let me buy it, so.
And where did you go? What store?
Usually,
The old store in
I went over to Tiger, Safeway.
Oh, to Tiger.
Oh, say.
Yeah, yeah. Or, in Florida, that,
Century,
That mercantile.
yeah,
No,
Century.
the white store.
Yeah.
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 Who owned that before Hoffman and Ring?
Well,
People by the name of Hoffman's owned that
yeah,
store.
before that it was Ed Robinson. Ed Robinson built
To
that.
start with.
Not that store, it was the other one, the wooden store.
No,
That was Ed Robinson.
Oddly enough, both those stores were Robinson's.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know
The
that.
brick store was Newt Robinson, Newt and Lizzie Robinson, and the white store was Ed Robinson and Grace.
Oh.
So when people talk about the Robinson store to the old timers, guys, which one?
Oh.
Yeah. So you remember, Wayne?
Yeah, I worked for him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I worked for Hoffman and Ring, till I got pregnant.
Oh. Well, didn't Hoffman's live down at the end of Nybert Lane?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
My dad said seems like he said that old man Hoffman, Pete Hoffman, had a team of white horses. He used to whip them up the hill or something.
I don't know.
And where did Ring live?
I don't know.
Now, wasn't Ring related to them?
That was his sister.
Oh, his sister.
Yeah,
Oh, I see, yeah. Because I remember the name Ring.
Yeah.
Hoffman Ring.
And also when, for Joe would get the groceries when our mother made out the list, and we wanted to have a ride, because that was our treat. We didn't get to go to the movies, and
Yeah.
so we'd come up there and he'd get the groceries, and we'd look into the candy. We didn't dare ask for any candy, but we was always looking at the different candy in the